Good morning, students. Today, in our social science class, we are going to continue our civics chapter Constitutional Design. In the previous class, we have learned how the Indian Constitution was framed with the help of the constitution of the different nations. Now, the topic we will start is the Part 2 Constitution. Our national movement was not merely a struggle against a foreign rule, it was also a struggle to rejuvenate our country and to transform our society and politics. Here, children, what they are trying to say is that the movement that took place all over the country was not merely a movement for struggle to remove the foreign rule from our country, but it was also a struggle to unite our country and to transform our society and politics. That means to change our society and politics. After that, the familiarity with political institution of colonial rule also helped develop an agreement over the institutional design. The experiences gained by Indians in the working of the legislative institution proved to be very useful for the country in setting up its own institution. That means whatever they have learned from the colonial rule, it got them helped to develop a institution which can combinedly help the country and to rule it properly in a democratic way. Many of our leaders were inspired by the ideals of French Revolution, the practices of parliamentary democracy in Britain and Bill of Rights in USA. So they incorporated some good points of the constitution of these in the Indian constitution. That means our Indian leaders, they were highly and were impressed by the French Revolution, so they introduced it in our Indian constitution. In the same way, the bill parliamentary democracy in Britain, that means the parliamentary system in the Britain, and the bill that was passed in USA to give the rights to each and everyone to choose its government. All these points were included in our Indian constitution. They also got inspired from the constitution drafted by Motilal Nehru and 8 other Congress leaders in 1928 and the outline of the Indian constitution prepared by the Indian National Congress at its Karachi session in 1931. That means they are trying to say that whatever was written by Motilal Nehru and the 8 members of the Congress party in 1928 and the Karachi session of 1931, all these points were taken and written down in the Indian Constitution by the makers of the Constitution. Now, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, he was the chairman of the drafting committee. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, he was the president of the Constituent Assembly, and Sarojini Naidu, she was also included in the Indian Constitution. After that, we have the Constituent Assembly. The Constitution of India was framed by a Constituent Assembly set up under the Cabinet Mission Plan in 1946. That means a cabinet was built up to frame out the Indian Constitution. The Assembly consisted of 389 members representing provinces 292, states 93, and the Chief Commissioner provinces 3 and the Balochistan. That means all these members of the assembly from different provinces, states, and Balochistan were included in the Constituent Assembly to draft the Constituent. The Constituent Assembly that wrote the Indian Constitution had 299 members. The Assembly adopted the Constitution on 26 November 1949, but it came into effect on January 26, 1950. They are saying that the Constitution was adopted in the Assembly on 26 November 1949 and it was implemented and came into effect in our country on 26 January 1950. Now, why should we accept the constitution made by the Constituent Assembly more than 69 years? That means whatever was written in the constitution by the Constituent Assembly, why should we accept it? Many countries of the world have had to rewrite their constitution afresh because the basic rules were not accepted to all major social groups and political parties. In some other countries, the constitution exists as a mere piece of paper. No one actually followed it. The experience of our constitution is different. No large social group or political party has ever questioned the legitimacy of the constitution itself. This is an unusual achievement for our country. That means they are trying to say that when constitutions were written in some countries, people did not accept it, or assembly did not follow it, and many social groups and political parties also raised question on it. But when our constitution was written, drafted, and it came into effect on 26 January 1950, no one raised a question on it, and it was a great achievement for our constitution. The Constituent Assembly represented the people of India. It was elected mainly by the members of the existing provincial legislature. This ensured a fair geographical share of members from all the regions of the country. The assembly represented members from the different language groups, caste, class, religion, and occupation. Here, what they are trying to say, children, that our country accepted this constitution because it was elected by the members of all the provincial legislatures of our country, and all the members from the different regions were involved in it. And assembly also represent the members. That means in the assembly, members were from different groups, caste, class, religion, and occupation. That means all together, all the people of the country from different regions, different provinces were included, were involved in making the constitution. That is why it is said that we can accept the constitution. The Constituent Assembly worked in a systematic, open, and consensual manner. First, one basic principle were decided and agreed upon. That means the one by one, step by step, the principles, rules, and laws were openly discussed with all the members in the Constituent Assembly, and after that, on their agreement, they were written down. Then a drafting committee, chairman by Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, prepared a draft constitution for discussion. Several rounds of through discussions took place on the draft constitution, clause by clause. That means each and every point was discussed in the assembly that was written down. More than 2000 amendments were made. That means more than 2000 changes were made. Every document presented and every word spoken in the Constituent Assembly has been recorded and preserved. That means whatever was said in the Constituent Assembly, it was recorded and written down. These are called Constituent Assembly debates. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar appointed the chairman of the drafting committee. Constituent adopted on 26 November 1949 and enacted on 26 January 1950 when India became a republic. The constitution reflects the best minds of the country. That means whatever was written in the constitution was written down and discussed in the Constituent Assembly, and all the philosophers, all the educated work people were included in it. Its members represented mini India. That means all the 299 members shows that whole of the country is gathered together to decide the future of the country. Now, these are the makers of the Indian Constitution. Those who drafted the Indian Constitution felt that it has to be announced with people, aspiration, and changes in the society. They did not see it as a scared, static and unalterable law. So they made provisions to incorporate changes from time to time. These changes are called the constitutional amendment. That means they are saying that the people who drafted the constitution, they wanted that the people, what they desire, what they want, and what changes should be brought in the society, all should be included in it. All the provisions should be changed from time to time. That means some changes should be brought according to the society and the people. Till date, 1904 amendments have been made in the Constitution. The amendment procedure provided in the Constitution is as follows. There are three categories of amendment. The amendment procedure provided in the Constitution is as follows. First, in the first category, amendment can be done by simple majority of members present and voting before sending it for the President's assessment. That means whatever amendment has to be made, whatever the change has to be made, it should be done by the voting system. After that, in the second category, amendments require a special majority. That means 2/3 majority of the members of the House should vote in the favor of the amendment. And the third category, amendment is really difficult to pass beside the special majority mentioned in the second category. The same has to be approved by at least 50% of the state legislature. That means people in the assembly, if they have passed 2/3 majority we have got, then it should be passed by the state legislature also with the 50%. Now, guiding values of the Indian Constitution. The leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Ambedkar, Jawaharlal Nehru put forward their views about dreams and promises the Constitution makes for the nation. That means the leaders, famous leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, and Jawaharlal Nehru also gave their views, pointed their views, so that a constitution of dream, a constitution that has been made, it has all the dreams and promises of them made to the nation. The preamble of the Constitution speaks about the philosophy on which entire Constitution has been built. It is the soul of the Constitution. So, the preamble were made for the Constitution that has been called the soul of the nation. Now, these are the preambles of our country and socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure all its citizens. All these things were written in the constitution of our country. Hope, children, you have understood the chapter from now. With this, we complete our chapter in which they says that the constitution that was framed for our country brought fully democracy in our country. Hope you have understood. Thank you.